Chief, are you going to be going through all 5 of those?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Ready when you are.
I'm ready.
Well, as you know, we're going through a recruiting process to hire 2 officers to fill vacancies we have this year. And Lieutenant Drake Sterling has been leading that recruitment drive and oversees the screening process. He is currently out of town in training, but this is extremely important to him. And he asked for the opportunity to be the one to provide you with a update. So we've got him dialed in from somewhere in Virginia. Can you hear me, Drake?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You're on.
All right. Well, yeah, as far as a recruiting update, I think since we last talked, we had the process open and it has since closed. It closed on July 11th. And we ended the recruitment process with 69 applicants, which was actually exactly the same as we saw in 2020. So we're seeing steady numbers in our applicants. And I've been doing the recruiting now for a number of years, and that's been pretty consistent. So we've consistently stayed around the same recruiting numbers as a whole. We held the written and physical agility testing on August 1st, and we did have 40 applicants show up for that, 40 of the 69. And of the testing, 31 were passed either the physical and the written standard, and we're invited to come to interviews, which we will hold on August 23rd and 24th. So we had 1 decline. He's already accepted employment elsewhere. So the plan is at this point to interview 30 applicants later this month. We have a board consisting of a number of supervisors within our department at various ranks, as well as an officer, and then a civilian member as well on that board. And so after the interviews, which we do hold with an outside consultant testing for public safety, they'll provide us the scores, and they, as part of their consulting, they kind of give us the suggested point at which we should take applicants on. We'll review that point as an administration and decide who will go to the background phase of our applicant screening process.
Hey, Drake, this is Commissioner Culp here. Hey, quick question, just because recruiting is becoming absolutely insane in my public, or actually private sector, but are these gentlemen or females that are applying for these positions, and there's 30 candidates, are all 30 of those candidates also looking somewhere else? Are they in the interview process more than just here?
Many of them are, especially with policing. It seems that we're all recruiting, from the same small pool, and that tends, and we're consistently competing with, our neighboring agencies, especially Carmel, Fishers, Noblesville. And so when we go to hold these processes, we actually have to reach out to those departments and say, hey, when are you having your written testing? When are you having your physical agility? So that we're not competing. A lot of times, they may be having it on a Saturday and we may have to have ours on a Sunday. And so you got applicants who are trying to balance both processes. So yeah, we are definitely, it is definitely competitive out there. And we've had to have that conversation with people in the past where we might have to speed up our process a little bit to try to beat an offer that may come from another place. And yeah, it's part of the recruitment process right now.
No, I that was going to be my exact question. It sounds like you're on it, because I was going to say, is there a way that we can streamline it so we can get the the offer out quicker than the other folks? And then my other question to that is, what is our competitive advantage? Is it
same question?
Yeah, competitive advantage when you do get that point if they're applying to different places.
So our competitive advantage, I think, probably well, for one, our starting pay is very good. And I believe it's one of the higher, if not one of the highest of the agencies that I mentioned. So we have that to our advantage. We also, for those who are from the Boone County area, we have, our reputation of Zionsville in our favor. And, we have a very unique style of policing here that is, not the type of style that you're going to see in Indianapolis, where you're overrun with, some serious calls every single day and you're running call to call. Whereas we have an opportunity here to obviously do more community policing, be in the small community, people know who you are. We have a number of different sections and divisions where we can give people exposure to what they want to do, whether that be, the school resource section or in the administration or in the investigations, and some of the opportunities that I think we might even talk about today with some of our special investigations work. So that's where we try to play up where we do well. Is we're going to give you a well-rounded police career, and we're going to do it without having to burn you out.
Okay, cool. Marcia, did you have another question?
I do have another question. Do you have demographic data for the candidate pool that you received this time?
Yes, so I have some very tentative demographic data. One thing that we need to do better at is we need to make an optional survey at the end of it where they can, share what demographic they identify with. We have some questions, but a number of those questions were taken off years ago because we definitely didn't want the perception that we were going to use that against them. So I think there's a way to do that, delicately and carefully, but get the data that we want. But what I do have is of the 69 who applied, we had 15 minorities, we had 14 females, and the rest identified as white males.
Great job. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'd add one thing to what Drake said. And when he talked about, we had 69 applicants this year, and that was the same as last year and consistent with prior years. I'd suggest to you that that's actually a very good number because police departments throughout the country now are seeing decreases in applicants. So to be able to maintain at the level we were is akin to an increase in my judgment. And he's done a very nice job of getting those candidates through the door.
Yeah, I think what Drake was saying too, I mean, it's a safe environment to work in, I assume, compared to other locations.
It's a very safe environment. It's a very safe town. And in our interview process, and particularly in the interviews I have with the officers, I want to understand that they understand this is much more of a service-oriented style of policing here in this town, which means that they have time to do the things that Drake said some departments don't have time to do. And that is to interact with the community, be involved with businesses and youth groups and the schools, and really develop those partnerships and friendships, which continue to make our police department very solid and well respected. And when we find the right candidates for the right spots, we get to be in really good shape. Another thing that maybe Drake's too modest to say is that he personally contacted every one of these candidates to make sure they knew about the process, knew what the dates were, the times, locations, and all those things. So while it's disappointing that some didn't appear for initial testing, it isn't because they didn't have the information and didn't have encouragement. So we're very hopeful that with the group we've got, we'll be able to fill positions we have. And as you'll hear later on, and as I sent to you earlier, prior to the meeting, in this 5-year plan, there may be some opportunity for growth in the future, which could be accomplished through this class.
Great. Any other questions?
Nope. Safe travels home, Drake.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Doing a great job.
Thanks.
Thank you, Drake. Drake is, among other things, right now at a training program where they're going to evaluate patrol cars, and I've asked him to take a special look at electric cars. So we'll see what kind of opportunities we have for the use of those in the future. Perhaps I don't know that it's they've got a vehicle quite yet ready for active patrol work, but certainly for administrative and detective positions, that may be a real option. So we'll see.
Hopefully it's not a Tesla. They may look down on us having Teslas.
It was the low-end Tesla. I don't know. We'll see. We certainly wouldn't bring an unreasonable request to you, although there had been some police departments in Indiana who experimented with Teslas, including Bargersville, and the lower end price of those is less expensive than our patrol cars. So,
well, that's true. You're probably right.
Yeah,
and they're fast.
They are fast.
I have no idea. Thanks, Drake.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you this afternoon. The next thing that I'd like to make sure you're aware of and brief you a little bit is about our regional gun crimes task force. And Sergeant Samuelson will come here in a minute and provide you with some more details. And I sent you the agreements and some of the overview about that project earlier before the meeting. But tomorrow at 11 a.m. at IPD's Regional Command Center, which is at 201 North Shadeland, there will be a large news conference to discuss the project and the program and officers involved in the work that they'll be doing. And just like all the other things we do, I want you to know you're very welcome to attend that if you're interested. So with that introduction, I'll ask Josh to talk about the CG.
Good morning. So as Chief Spears said, we started our involvement with the Crime Gun Task Force. July was a pretty busy month. Got signed into law 1st of July. We assigned our detective July 19th, so he's been there about a month now. Doing well. He's kind of in a little bit of a training program right now. As you can imagine, it's a little bit different working, Indianapolis, specifically a lot of time on the east side. He's kind of seeing the other side of the coin of what Drake was talking about, with the type of policing that we get to do here in Zionsville. He's getting a full immersion in the other side of that coin right now. So they take them through a training program, kind of a progression to make sure that they get used to that with the guidance of other superior officers. He's in touch with their sergeant, their experienced detectives, working up that comfort. I hear his war stories every week here. I talked to him a few times. He's excited, getting to see a lot of police work. Said he's probably done more police work in as far as actual catching bad guys, probably in one day than he's done his entire career. So incredibly valuable, the experience that he's going to bring home to Zionsville. If and when he does come back to investigations, he's voiced that at some point he'd like to come back and bring that knowledge, that experience to us. So he's doing well. We're one of the first 3 agencies in the donut counties to participate. Us, Carmel, and Avon are the first 3. There's talk of other ones coming on board. Chief Spears is going to serve on the executive board for the task force. Just getting up to speed, getting some of the logistics squared away, getting his radio with the right frequencies, all those simple things that we kind of take for granted. But, working with another agency or several other agencies, we're having to make sure those things mesh and work. But so far, so good. He's having fun and learning a lot. Happy to answer any questions about the task force if you have one. But
Thank you.
right.
Very good.
Take care.
Thanks, Josh. That task force is important because it gives us a chance to develop information and intelligence relative to problems which may border Zionsville, which may occur within Zionsville, and it provides a very significant force multiplier in the event that we need to investigate those things further. We can bring that group into town, we can go help them, we can work on the periphery, and all that comes to us with a pretty good financial deal as well, because the state reimburses us $75,000 for the participation of that officer in the program. So I'm looking forward to good things from him, and I appreciate your interest and support of that program as well. Captain Kleiken is going to speak to you about a couple of issues. One, I understand you want an update on Flock, and he's prepared to do that, right? Okay. And the other is, as we go through this accreditation process, we told you we would bring to you occasionally some adjustments in policies, more in a batch form, but we've had one recently that we want to make sure you're aware of relative to the use of our cars and how they're attended and unattended, and they'll talk about that a little bit as well. Captain?
Well, good morning. So again, the first thing we'll talk about is the policy. I believe you all have it in your packets, policy 700, talking about unattended vehicles. And what we did here, it's not a major adjustment within the policy, but we did shore up some of the language in there to provide clear guidance to the officer, when their vehicle can be left running and when it's unattended and when it shouldn't be. So what we did is really clear that up to make sure, because if they're at a intersection with their lights on, if it's extreme heat or cold, if they have a canine in that vehicle needs to be running to maintain all the electronics within that vehicle there. But if it is going to be parked for long periods of time, those officers are going to shut that vehicle off, help reduce the wear and tear in that vehicle and help save some fuel on there. So really, it was a minor change and some verbiage on there within policy 700, and that has since been pushed out to the officers. Any questions on the policy?
If that verbiage was changed, Captain, do we need to vote to approve the change, or is that such a minor change it doesn't matter?
To my understanding, a minor change like that, we don't need a vote on. We can
Okay.
always do a vote on it, but it was a very minor change in can to shall and some
Okay.
other things.
I'm not trying to get in the way of every little change. I just want to make sure it was an official change or it couldn't be challenged.
Second one, the flock systems. As you know, we've been online with flock there. And when I talk and ask officers, how is flock going? How are you using it daily? Where are you using it? How are you using it? The officers, patrol officers, they use it proactively and reactively based on the alerts that come in on those. So I did just a small look at that. So just for this month alone, so from the 1st until this morning, we've had about 2 to 3 flock hits a day come through on there. And not every single one of those is a warrant. Not every single one of those is a stolen car, but they are other things that can develop for those officers to proactively go out there and research and look at. And so we've had 41 this month of the hot list alerts there. But the biggest part where we're using these flock cameras is investigations. And like Detective Samuelson said, these task force officers, these investigators, they're using these flock cameras to look into and really develop cases and develop leads, especially with that officer down at the gun crime task force to find, information on people that are actually extremely dangerous out here and traveling. So to give you a small look at it, for this month alone, we've had 245 inquiries using these cameras by investigations into the system. Average plate reads for this month so far, about 21,000 plate reads. We have recovered a handful of stolen vehicles, a handful of a vehicle with a bunch of other stolen plates in it. So this individual is not only stealing cars, but actively coming into our community to possibly steal other cars or other equipment. And of course, a handful of warrants. Warrants get taken in, and with COVID, some warrants are being accepted in the jail, some other ones are being summoned into jail. So, any questions on the flock system?
Yeah, I don't know if I asked this before or not, but on the flock system, let's say there's an Amber Alert.
Mhm.
Does that automatically talk to that if they have the?
So a missing person will go into that, and that flock system has a refresh. So it's right now they're working with the state to get that where it's a 100% live system. So if an Amber Alert goes out instantly, they'll have to refresh their list. But what officers can do is they can put that plate number in, and that'll pop up right either on their cell phone. They can have it come to their cell phone like I do. They can have it pop up on their computer screen and email.
So it's like, I would think that the most or the best chance of getting that is either on the interstate on 65 or the on-off ramp there, right? Is that even our jurisdiction? I mean, is that Whitestown?
So Whitestown, so we have also partnered with all of the other agencies in the area that have the flock system, and Whitestown does have some, and you may have seen them over by the interstate right there by 65 at the 130. So that will also trigger, and that can alert us. So officers can be tied into those cameras there and look into those and be alerted from those as well.
Captain, could maybe just give me a sense of, I'm driving a stolen car, there's a ping on the flock system. What happens procedurally within ZPD?
So within ZPD, any officer working that has that flock, has their computer turned on and booted up, that flock alert is going to pop up within seconds on their screen, but probably no longer than a minute when that's going to pop up there. Our dispatch center will also put that out over the air for any officers that are out of their vehicles, whether in the station typing and not seeing those alerts come up. They're going to air that over the air there so officers can move into the area and try to locate that vehicle.
So it'll say, 87 Ford Taurus driving westbound on 96th Street, pinged as stolen vehicle, be aware, and someone that's on Ford Road may, all right.
Absolutely. And they'll put it out, and they'll put it out, and we're always going to verify that as well. So just because it's in the flock system as a stolen vehicle, we're going to go through, locate that vehicle, and we're going to verify that vehicle is stolen before making a stop on that.
Conceptually, is it better for the bad guys to know the system exists so they stay away from Zionsville, or so that it doesn't exist so we can catch them?
That's a debate that I think is even on either side. You know,
Okay.
you put up a big sign and say, hey, you know, we have this system, or do we leave it kind of covert and go that way? So I think either side has even arguments for that. Got it. Thanks so much.
I think he's right about the whether you make it covert or overt, right? Because it can discourage some people that would otherwise come to town if they know it's there. But others who, because they now know it's where, remove their license plate or otherwise disguise their vehicle where it can't be read. So it's I think it's something we should continue to monitor and see if we believe there's a better way to do it, one best way to do it, and maybe reevaluate in the future. But for now, they're overt. You don't really, I mean, they're covert. You don't really see them coming.
Go ahead, Marcia.
How does it work if there's no plate on?
That's
the car?
exactly what I was going to ask.
So if they're
What?
disguising their vehicle by removing the plate, does it not alert you that there's a vehicle with no plate?
So investigations, we have multiple different search functions that we can do within the system there. And one of them, we can search for vehicles without a plate. And IMPD, I've talked to their detectives down there. They've used this to solve homicides where they have disguised the plate, and we'll go through, and the AI system within the flock safety can look at the taillights and give us an approximate make and model and color, since it takes an actual photograph of the vehicle and not just an IR picture or something like that. So we get a make, model, color of the vehicle, and then investigators can search that way. And they'll use specific identifiable things like a sticker on the back window or damage to this portion of the car to help find that camera or help find that image on other cameras where possibly that plate is no longer obstructed. And then they're able to tie a vehicle that had a disguised plate in XYZ location. Now they're over here with their plate on the vehicle. So it's really a huge tool. Investigators really sing its praise every day.
So, right, so on the investigative side, I can see the value. What if you have a car with no license plate driving through Zionsville? Are you alerted?
We are not going to be alerted to that. That's going to be because not every time is the cameras able to get a good read on the plate, just based on how close other cars are to it, maybe an obstructed angle or something based on how that vehicle is. But we do run reports on those to see what our read rate is. And if we're seeing a read rate really go down, we contact Flock to see if there's maybe an angle adjustment. We just had one where a street sign was put near the Flock camera. So at nighttime, the IR flash was washing out the images. So we had to go and get that moved.
Okay.
Yeah,
I blame Lance for that.
exactly.
He's not here to defend himself, right?
The last thing I have on this agenda to speak with you about is this 5-year plan. And if a football team goes up to the line and they get ready to run a play, nobody knows what the play is, it's not going to be very successful, right? So I, along with the help of our staff here, we developed this 5-year plan. And I felt like it was very important for us as an organization to know what our plans are for the next 5 years or so. And I think it's incredibly important for you as a council, as the police commission, also the council, some dual duty there, and the mayor's office and everybody else involved in city government to know what we perceive to be the needs for the next 5 years. So I don't want to sit here and read it to you. I know you've had a chance to go through it. And I thought maybe at this first meeting, what I'd do is see if you have any questions about it or anything I can do to help you fill in any blanks.
Chief, you answered a lot of my questions, and we were going to talk about this afterwards, but I'm happy to talk about it now. Do you want to talk about facilities, or are you not ready to talk about that in a public setting?
We can discuss it within the plan. I suggested there were really 3 things that might be done with regard to our facilities. And the first option was to make do with what we have. And the building we have now is very practical. It kind of suits our needs. With the Parks Department relocating up here, we have an opportunity to spread out a little bit, which allows us to, I think, professionalize in some ways. It would let our detectives have some private offices where when they speak to somebody about a case or crime, They've got more privacy and the ability to work their investigation. We are in the process now of obtaining quotes and evaluations of the facility and its structure to make certain that we don't have any surprises or long-term needs that would prevent us from being able to stay there. The second option was that we expand our offices within that building, which is really kind of a continuation of what I just described. We could stay exactly the way we were, or we could spread out a little bit. And I think that helps to reduce some of the concerns that we have in the first option. And the third option was that in time, perhaps, if the town finds there's an interest or the need to develop a comprehensive public safety facility, we could look well into the future to see about the development of a building which would perhaps house both police and fire, maybe even a fire station, or not. You know, obviously, if we got to that point, the fire department should be very intimately involved in this study and this planning. But for the time being, I think, particularly with the ability to spread out in our building, we've got a good opportunity to make better use of that building.
Now, are you housed now here, or are you still back at your office?
No, I'm across the street.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have a sense of, and I don't want to wade into budget, town council stuff, but do you have a sense of how long that decision will make? Because in your plan, it talks about the HVAC system, for example, being $100,000. I hate to spend money on temporary things unless it's going to become a permanent thing. And it would be good, I think, in general, to get a sense of, or even a commission study of, what are the facility needs? What's the best use of those dollars? Even if it's more expensive to build new, does that end up being cheaper in the long run versus trying to maintain a building that is admittedly aging over there?
Yeah, there's really, that's a real good question, because does it make a lot of money? It makes sense to invest a lot of money into a facility which might be, we may discontinue using in the future, may put that money towards a new building.
Right.
One of the good news things I received the other day is they did an evaluation, excuse me, of the roof, and the roof seems to be in good shape, and it seems like it should last for several more years. The HVAC, we've got some initial quotes, but we probably need to get multiple quotes to make certain that, you know, that the prices are competitive and appropriate. But at this point, we're making do with what we've got. I think it will continue for a while longer, but the issue is really long term. Will that HVAC system hold up for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years? And the answer to that is I don't know.
So Parks is moving over here based on what you said.
Parks has moved over, yes.
Is Streets moving over here except for their equipment barn? Or do you not know?
I don't know if, the answer for certain. I know that Mr. Lance has moved over here. My belief was that the staff was going to remain over there because all their trucks and equipment and everything's over there. So the west side of the building, which would be vacated, would be the area formerly occupied by the Parks Department.
And is police going to take that over temporarily if you're space constrained, or is it not really feasible given the division?
We don't like the term takeover, but
inherit?
We are making active inquiries about our ability to expand. Yes.
Expand into.
Yes, sir.
That's better.
I don't have any other questions about the matters at hand.
I have a question about personnel. It looks like over the next 4 years, 5 years, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, addition of 8 officers to the force.
Well, over the next 5 years, the recommendation is for 12. 3 next year, which would include 1 that would go to a school, the new school.
New school, yeah.
And 2 to begin this process of beginning to grow the size of the police department.
And what's the rationale for doing that? Is it increased population? Is it, Yeah, like I'd just like to understand a little bit more about.
The 2010 census for Zionsville showed the population of the town at about 14,000 people. The 2020 unofficial census has it at almost 30,000.
Jeez.
And from just my tour around the town, it appears it's continuing to grow. And so as we forecast and project the size of the town relative to its staffing needs, and if in time some of the area which is considered rural is absorbed and patrol responsibilities become responsibility of the police department, then it is important to begin to grow the police department incrementally. National studies and best practices suggest that there should be about 2.4 officers for every 1,000 people in a town or city community. And we're not there at all. But the beautiful thing about our town is, based on calls for service, the crime rate, the relationship we have with the citizens, I think we can grow incrementally rather than make a suggestion that we try to arrive at some national standards, best practices numbers right away, because that would just be incredibly expensive. So that's the reason you see this gradual increase over the next 5 years.
What's the ratio of police officers to citizens right now?
Well, if we have close to 30,000, we have 38 positions, 2 of which are vacant, so 36,000 for that number of that population.
And
Yes, ma'am.
it gets a little complicated when you throw in the rural aspect too.
Yes, yes.
Appreciate you doing the plan.
Thank you very
I've
much.
never had one before, so I think it's great.
Yeah.
So thank you. Is the intent to refresh this with some regularity, just kind
Yeah,
of?
I would consider it to be like an evergreen plan. It would continue to be
Yeah.
revised, refreshed, and added to. And I appreciate you saying that about the study or the report, but I appreciate all of you taking the time to read it, because quite honestly, a lot of the good ideas and thoughts that go into a report like this come from people like you, from the town council, from the mayor's office, from the citizens, from the police officers, everybody involved who can have an opportunity to review it. And I have not yet shared it with the officers, because I want to be sure I have some solid ground to stand on before I send it to them. But at some point soon, I want them to know it, because like I said at the beginning of this discussion, sounds a little corny, but when the play's called, I want to know if they're going, right or left or up the middle. They need to know what our plan is. The last thing I have for all of you is I want to invite you to our police community forum, which will be Thursday, September the 9th at 7 p.m. here in this building, and hope to have a nice turnout. And I hopefully sent you the agenda on that, and you'll see kind of the things we have in mind. If there are things you would like to see added to that agenda or information you believe should be addressed, I hope you'll send it to me and we'll be sure to cover it.
Will that be upstairs or, sorry, will that be upstairs or in this room?
It'll be upstairs in
Upstairs.
the
What time?
same
7?
events room, 7 p.m. Yes, sir.
You guys send meeting requests out, or?
I'll send you a meeting request. I sent an email with the information in it, but yes, we can absolutely send out a meeting request.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We have to public notice that if there was more than 3 counselors there, or not, because we're not discussing council business. Yeah, okay.
Any other questions on new business? Okay.
No.
We don't have to approve anything, so. I do have one question on other matters. Does anybody else have anything on other matters?
Mm-mm.
So, not sure if this is the appropriate place to ask this question, but the council was privy to the assessment that was done throughout the entire administration from all the departments. Have you seen that information from Joe Keel yet?
The Amplify survey.
She's given us a sort of an overview of it. We're going to meet with her and she's going to go in more detail, but I have not received that meeting. Haven't had that meeting yet.
Okay. Is this something that once we've seen Josh and Brian, I've seen the information. Is this something that we would meet with you one-on-one, or not even anything? Like there's some stuff in there that they're recommending we change in the police department. Is that something we would discuss, or that just you kind of give us an update later on some of the findings of what you would like to do to.
And not to jump in, my understanding of the Amplify survey is that data and those responses are confidential and anonymous. So I wouldn't
Correct.
expect that we would be discussing it in a public meeting.
Okay, yeah, and I didn't mean to say that we we're going to talk about the exact words and, outcomes. Just say more like, would he come to us and say, hey, here's some of the changes we're going to make from the
Sure.
employees' recommendations. That's all I'm really saying.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that meeting as well with Joe.
Can we back up? What are you talking about? What survey is this? Since you guys know, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So the town engaged Amplify, and I believe they have a different name now because they were recently sold, but it's an outside consulting firm that looks at employee engagement and satisfaction. And then they provide for a series of surveys of employees. And so the town had completed an Amplify survey for the fire department, I believe last year.
October.
And they're engaging now in a firm-wide effort to look at each department. So how are employees feeling? How is their engagement? So those preliminary pieces of information have just recently come back. And I think to your point, Chief, the council got a little bit of a sneak preview, but the Joe Keel, who's the human resources director for the town, is now engaging the individual departments, is our understanding, and talking them through the results and then looking at strategies to
I just wasn't sure. If
Yeah,
you were
no,
talking
it
about
was-
a public survey or an
kind
employee
of
survey. So
getting
thank you
like,
for
it was sort
clarifying.
of clear
Yeah,
as mud.
360 employee survey, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I have been doing, though, independent of that survey, is meeting with every employee individually. And I probably have a half a dozen or so left to complete, but some of those discussions have lasted a long period of time, some not quite as long, but the common thread that runs through all of them is that everybody in our police department they all have good ideas, and they have
Yeah.
suggestions and thoughts and things that we can do to help them do a better job and have a better working conditions. So through those things, and perhaps after this opportunity to meet with Joe, I'll have some other recommendations, not only for our staff but for all of you. So yes, we're taking it very seriously, and I really do value the input of our police officers.
Great. Any other questions or other matters? Otherwise, I'll say let's make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. So let's just do all in favor of adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have 4 in favor and 0 opposed. I would hit the gavel and say we're done. See you guys.